Okay, so this is an example of a conference poster. So this is a poster I presented at the Society for Behavioral Medicine meeting I think it was at the end of March of this month. I mean, this year, the end of March of this year. And so it's a prototypical type of poster, although people can make them look a lot prettier than this. I just went to the basics. I don't usually doctor things up too much. I've learned in the past that the more you do to a poster to make it look pretty, the more distracting it is. You want to just kind of stick to the content. The only thing I did here was use the school colors, right? So I looked up the exact colors for LaSalle University and made sure that I matched everything in our blue and gold. So that's the only thing I did. So this is a conference poster that I did. I worked with a couple of IRI, International Research Institute of North Carolina, one student, Ryan Verma, and then his my TA there, Juliana Upchurch. So there were the co-authors on this. And by the way, just to make it clear, this is a good example. It did receive a citation, so it was basically an award-winning poster. So that's just so that you know that I'm giving you some good information here, right, rather than some nonsense. So, well, how do you make these posters? That's the real important question here. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. You zoom in, and it makes it a little hard to see certain components. First thing here, you can hear Piper in the background chiming in, my parrot. He's always got commentary on everything. So first thing, what I do is I create a PowerPoint slide. There's two here, but this other one is relevant. But I create a PowerPoint slide. And what I do is I go to the conference site and look up the parameters for their poster. So usually what they do is have poster boards, and those poster boards have a size, and then so you have to, of course, try to make your poster fit into the poster board. Now, sometimes we're wrong. Like the information they gave us at SPM was incorrect because the the borders of the poster board were included in the side. So, I got this to fit, but it went over the tackable area because you went there, you stick tacks in to hold up these posters. So it kind of went above and went beyond that to on each side. So part of the poster was hanging over the whatever the framing of that board. So I didn't like that. So I wish they would tell you, well, the actual area where you can pin the poster is such and such, but that's okay. We adapt and we move on. But once you get the information, you go to slide size, and then you go to custom slide sizing, and you fit your poster to what you want it to be. So this poster is 48 inches wide and 36 inches in height. I was going to do something a little bit different, make it a little narrower and taller, but I also had to deal with a printer who had very specific parameters that because this was, I didn't pay for the printing. I mean, if I paid for it, I could get them to do whatever I want, but I used one that was at our university. So I had to fit it to the parameters that she had set up. So that's what I did here. And once I set that up, now I fill in the content. If you look at the size of my text, let's go back here to the text size. So you see the text size is pretty large, right? I use this whatever this Palatino linotype is, and it's 50, right? That's pretty large. Usually you're thinking about 12 or so when you're typing. And then here, I think maybe even went larger, yeah, 72. So this is pretty big. So this is a 20% of its actual size. If I go to 100%, you can see what it really looks like, right? But obviously I wouldn't be able to work with that. So this is the actual the size of the text on the poster. So in order to work with it here, I have to be able to, see everything. So that's what I did here. Now it's important to note that there's a lot of components here, right? So a lot of things that we have to do, including trying to fit things in so they look good. And here I did a fairly decent job. The printer, she asked me like at the end, well, there you have these tables that aren't, they're not exactly the same size as the other elements. well, I didn't want to stretch them out more, and so it was like, there's some things that I did that some others might not have done. I don't know, but again, I'm more interested in the content than I am in the design of the poster. Some people might be more into the design. I don't know. So that's up to you. But I still include a lot of content. There's like it's debatable how much content you should put in because you should be able to read this rather than, get turned off by the poster in a sense. I try to not put too much content in as I used to, and still there's still a lot of content here. But I've actually kind of shrunk it a little bit. So believe it or not, this is a major improvement over my past dense posters. But a couple of things that you should have. You should always have contact information. You should always have your institutional affiliation somewhere. And from my institution, you can download these from our website, the seals and the or chevrons, whatever they call them. Just like I found the colors on, what are the official colors. Obviously, you need the title. My title was very long here, but this is a long paper. My the authors, right? I didn't put in the degrees because you don't necessarily need that, but it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. In our class, this is also for our class, for our capstone course. I will be the second author in everybody's paper. Okay. So again, I put the institutional affiliation here. Sometimes you can do it separately, but I like it since again, I had the room here. I might as well just do it rather than create another row and reduce the amount of space I have for other content. The rest of this poster is basically what you do in a paper. So, and one of the reasons my older posters were more dense is I would almost copy and paste pieces of papers into my papers into the poster. But again, I'm trying to reduce the clutter as much as possible. But still, you have your background, like what's the purpose of the paper? Try to use as many acronyms as I can so I can save space. So I define them early, then just use them later. Let me just increase this just so you can see this and I won't have to shift to this. I'm just going to delete this page since I don't need it. There you go, make it life easier. Go to the methods and the usual participants and procedures, the instrumentation. It means the measures that were used, right? Try to give as much detail as I can, but of the important things. The results section, sticking just to the results. No, we don't need to know anything else at this point. Just stick to the results. One thing you will notice here is I had three tables I had to present because there were three different analyses done in here. So I put one of them on the left side. It'd be nice to keep them all together, but I had this little space here. This thing fit in perfectly, so I just adjusted what I was doing and have a discussion, which includes the limitations and the conclusion. So you could add more. You'll notice, one thing you'll notice is I don't put references in here. I never put references in. Now, some people might want to, but I never put references in posters. But I do have like in this case, I brought the paper with me so that people could look at the references if they needed the references. So this has already been published. So if you look at the bottom here, let me shrink this a little bit. You look at the bottom, you look at the bottom here, you'll see that the article was in Journal Stats, right? So I have the information here and I had the article with me, of course. So, but just for your reading pleasure, here it is. This is the actual citation. So I put the citation in there so people could see it if they were interested. And excuse me, it's early morning still. So they could see it and hopefully read it. They had all the information. This was an open access journal. It is an open access journal, so they have access to this. And it was interesting. A lot of people liked it. But anyway, so that's how you design a poster. right? And just make sure everything, don't be wary of errors because you don't want any errors. I had on another poster, I had somebody who was like concerned because there was an error in the poster and like non-cap not capitalizing something where it should have been capitalized. Oh, once it's done, it's done. And that's it. So you don't want to make those errors if you can. As far as just a point about these, sometimes you have figures in here. I didn't really want to present the figures because I really wanted the tables here because that was the key to this analysis that I did. But just make sure they're legible. And one thing I've learned also is just don't use distracting type of formats. And hopefully this wasn't distracting in any way, but you don't want to do things that are too fancy. I used to put like backgrounds that were like the universe or something like that, or the Milky Way, or mountains, whatever. It's just too distracting. It's better to just have the text there. That's it for me. Thank you very much for watching. And I hope you learned something from this.